Hello, everybody. My name's Chris Jones. I'm the founder of What Next Retirement, and I'm enjoying the company of Rachael Sullivan from Barfoot and Thompson, who has very kindly agreed to answer a few questions and discuss retirement.
Hi, Chris. How you
So,
doing?
good, thank you. So if I can kick off, just a big philosophical question, I suppose. What do you think purpose in life is following retirement?
I think that's a really personal piece, and I think it changes for a lot of people, which is exactly why the programs like yours are so important, because I think you need to know what your purpose will be when it comes time. I think too many people get to it and haven't actually asked themselves, what is that question? So for me, I don't have kids. My purpose is going to be just to have as much fun as I possibly can. I'm working really hard now so I can have the money, the health, the opportunities to do the fun stuff, to travel, to go to the sports events that I want to. I know for some people who do have kids and grandchildren, that's going to be the purpose, is how do I get to spend more time with the grandchildren. So I think that what is purpose in life after retirement is such an important question that actually enough people don't even think about thinking about just yet.
Oh, thanks for that. Yes. Yes, I think you're quite right. It varies from person to person. But would you agree that having purpose is absolutely essential?
100%. I think that's probably the piece that people miss when they stop working is, what is my purpose? If you've, in my profession in real estate, people have almost been local celebrities. Everyone's known them. They've been involved in the tennis club, at the badminton club. They go to the school fairs and everyone knows them. So that has been their purpose, to give back to the community whilst building their database and their network. And I think having a purpose very clearly of what that's going to be when you are no longer what perhaps you used to think was your purpose and your identity is just so key and critical to making sure that that next stage, what's next, is fun and enjoyable and not scary and intimidating.
Yes, I think you've identified a very important issue there. You talk about estate agents being local celebrities. Very often, one's identity can be very much bound up in one's work. So, perhaps moving on a little bit, what do you think are the emotional challenges then that come with retirement?
I think there is the identity piece, as we talked about. I think there's also the financial perspectives. You sort of don't know how long retirement is going to last. So there is this concern about, well, I don't want to stop too early because how long will that next bit be? But you also don't want to stop too late that you don't get to enjoy it. So I think that's another one of the pieces. I think the emotional challenge of where do you fit into your family or your community, within the family or the whānau piece. If you've been the person who's been the breadwinner and bringing in the money, and now you're not bringing in as much, perhaps per se, is that an emotional piece? What am I contributing anymore? Am I now just a burden? I think I think it creates these different emotional challenges because we don't talk about it enough. I think it sort of surprises people sometimes when it comes to their time, or maybe it's been a taboo thing that we don't talk about. But I think the emotional challenge from anything in life comes from when it's unexpected, when you're ill prepared. And I think if you can take the time earlier in the process to be prepared to understand what retirement is going to look like for you, then it helps reduce those emotional challenges and doesn't make them so scary.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that financial considerations are very, very
Mm.
important in this piece. But setting those aside, I think you've identified very well that preparation is
Mm.
so important. Um, have you seen any of your colleagues undergoing these sort of challenges and maybe doing well or maybe
Yeah.
doing badly?
It's interesting because I've sort of seen both sides. I've seen someone I was working with before COVID, for example, where trying really hard to get him a role. I was in more of a recruitment role in those days, and it was about, he just wanted a job. He was well over what you would term retirement age, but he just wanted to keep working. And so we'd find him a job and different contracts. And then after COVID, the first sort of lockdown period, I saw on LinkedIn, he's like, that's it, I've retired, I'm going to the beach. And I rang and I was like, what brought this on? You were the one who was always on at me to find your job. And he said it really just made me reevaluate when we went through COVID, when things became a little bit less certain. He said it made me reevaluate why am I working? Why am I doing all of this? So, that was sort of a really positive outcome of a obviously terribly scary piece, but a positive outcome of why he thought retirement was important and planning for it. On the other side, I have my father who has retired perhaps without the plan, and it's very hard to see someone whose life was so full of innovation and ideas and conversation and people, sort of the world become quite small, and I think that's another really, really important piece, and why it is so important, why I'm so um, keen for people to start having those conversations and thinking now about what does retirement look like, and not make it the scary word, but make it the exciting opportunity and the challenge, or the next challenge, if that's what you've been doing in your life up until then. So yeah, you sort of see different sides of people coming towards this retirement stage.
Yes, I saw a quote which said that you potentially have a third of your life to come after retirement. So,
Yeah,
um,
and I
yeah,
think that's also changed over time. I think my parents are almost the first generation who are living long enough to have a very, very long retirement. I think, and when it comes to my, longevity, you could be 90 to 100 and still be relatively, mobile and active. And now that's a long chunk, a big piece of your life to be doing something else. You can't just be doing golf or just be hanging out with the grandkids, because they'll probably grow up and have gone before you're ready to not be doing that. So I think it's as you say, one whole third of your life is still to be planned for.
yeah. So, I mean, just thinking about change in general, but particularly in this context, um, why do you think it's so unexpected that this, what must on the face of it be a big shift in one's life and a big shift also in other people's lives? So, partners, friends,
Hmm.
work colleagues. So,
Mm,
why do you think that change is, I guess, such a surprise to many
yeah.
people?
I mean, I think because we don't stop and think about it, basically, because as you say, it's not unexpected, really, in reality. We all know, well, we all hope we're going to get to that stage. I think, like many things, you get too caught up in the trees that you forget about the forest. So, you're too busy just living the day and going to work and coming home and having your relationship with your partner and your kids, if you're in that situation, that you sort of forget about what next, to quote the name of your program, what next. And I think it's about trying to change that conversation and have the conversation. I think there's so many things, we never used to talk about menopause. It was, the change, said in very quiet terms in case someone talked about it. We've got relationships now where the one partner might be a lot older or younger than the other. These are real realities that happen more so now than perhaps in the past. You've got people who are in second or third relationships. So retirement takes on different meanings in terms of the new life with the new partner. So I think the reason is simply because we haven't thought to think about it yet. And programs like yours, and you see a lot more corporates now talking about what are we doing for our people to prepare them for retirement with dignity, with purpose, and, without being too Machiavellian about it, how does it help the business as well? The IP that can walk out the door at a great retirement party is actually quite terrifying, the things some of these people know about why we're doing things this way and why that, finance system is set up like that. So I think that whole culture around talking about retirement, preparing for it, seeing it as an opportunity and as an exciting piece is why it's so unexpected, because we haven't been having those conversations or those thoughts and using that language of the positivity piece of retirement.
Yes, opportunity rather than threat, I hope.
Yes.
So
Yes.
just picking up, you mentioned partners.
Mm-hmm.
Is it your experience that people in general do include their partners in these conversations, or do you think there's sometimes a bit of a gap there?
I think those people that are having the conversation are probably thinking about bringing their partners in. And I know that the conversations I've been having in my workplace, they often talk about, the husband and I, or the wife and I, or, my boyfriend or fiance. But I think that's actually a really important piece to include that person in, because sometimes you might assume, well, you're 10 years older than me, so you're going to retire 10 years before me, but I'm not stopping working because I'm, at the perfect stage of my career and I'm going on. And the other person's like, well, I don't want to retire without you. That's sort of, not the point. So those are the conversations that really need to be had, just to make sure you're both on the same path. It's sort of like when you get married, if you're young, you need to have that, do you want to have kids, do you not want to have kids conversation, because it's a bit hard to have it once decisions have been made. And then towards the other end, you need to have that. So what do you want to have, an active retirement? Do you want to stay in the city we've always been in because that's where all our friends are? Or do you want to move to the sort of remote country beachside, something else space? That even that can be a huge, for me, for example, my partner and I are both very clear that we're staying here. We're Aucklanders born and bred, and that's where we're going to retire. For me, the thought of retiring somewhere I haven't lived for the past 60 or 70 years of my life is terrifying. I want to be around my friends and my family as I get older. That's, I finally have time to catch up with them for lunch. I want to be able to be close enough to do so.
Yes. Sometimes, the old saying, be careful what you wish for. And we do see people who, they have plans to go up stakes and move to another country or another part of the country or whatever. And I think in many cases, they think, oh, hang on a minute, this isn't working. And the reason is because they've actually take themselves away from the associations that's so important.
100%. You've spent all your life building these networks and having these friends. And I do think, as you get a little bit older, you kind of get less interested in making new friends. You shouldn't, but you kind of do. It's, you don't want to start from scratch again. So for me personally, and obviously everyone's got their own priorities, but for me, that the point is, I'm still going to support the Blues, still going to Eden Park, even if I need a Zimmer frame to get myself up the stairs. That's the sort of thing that's, maybe I then will have won another championship. So yeah, for me, but that's the things you need to talk about to understand what is important to you and what's important to the people that are important to you.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you very, very much indeed. That's been very interesting to get your perspective. And I think you obviously have a good approach personally. And I think you're also thinking about it from the perspective of your organization. So let me just say thank you very much indeed, Rachael, and look forward to talking to you again.
Well, it's my pleasure. And honestly, thank you, Chris, for doing these sorts of programs to raise the profile of retirement, so people are starting to think about it and can go into the best years feeling their best. So yay for both of us. Thanks.
Thank you.